We live in interesting times.
For the headlines.
Anger soared in Hong Kong on Monday over a vicious assault against pro-democracy protesters by a mob of suspected triad gangsters that left dozens wounded, one critically in a dramatic escalation of the political violence plaguing the financial hub.
The West Philippine Sea is ours. This was President Duterte's declaration as he discussed the issue in his fourth State of the Nation address Monday.
In Europe, Parisians are bracing for potentially the hottest ever temperature in the French capital this week as a new heat wave blasted into northern Europe that could set records in several countries.
And Filipino legend Manny Pacquiao rolls back the years to become the oldest welterweight champion in boxing history with a thrilling split decision victory over WBA champion Keith Thurman.
Mama Angeles, wherever you're watching from around the world, thank you very much for joining us.
We welcome our viewers here in the Philippines and around the world. Good evening, everyone. I'm Sam Cepeda.
News. Anger soared in Hong Kong on Monday over a vicious assault against pro-democracy protesters by a mob of suspected triad gangsters that left dozens wounded, one critically, in a dramatic escalation of the political violence plaguing the financial hub. The city's roiling unrest took a dark turn late Sunday when gangs of men, most wearing white t-shirts and carrying bats, sticks, and metal poles, set upon anti-government demonstrators as they returned from another huge march earlier that day. Take a look.
佢諗住幫手嘅時候都，但係又即刻有好多人衝上嚟啦，咁就打鐵通啊，武器啊，即係木棍啊。
有個人喺前面俾人打低咗，流晒血。我嘗試過去，跟住之後同佢哋講話流晒血啦，我拖走佢咋咁樣，但係佢哋都唔準，基本上就拎住各種武器啦，就走過嚟繼續襲擊我啦。
From the attack broadcast live on Facebook showed people screaming as the men beat multiple protesters and journalists in Yuen Long Station and inside subway trains, leaving pools of blood on the floor. Hospital authorities said 45 people were wounded in the attack, with one man in critical condition and 5 others with serious injuries. Critics rounded on the city's embattled police force, accusing officers of taking more than an hour to reach the station despite frantic calls from those under attack and then failing to arrest the armed men who stayed in the streets around the station into Monday morning. Some men in white shirts were later filmed leaving the scene in cars with Chinese mainland number plates. Yuen Long lies in the new territories near the Chinese border, where the criminal gangs and staunchly pro-Beijing rural committees remain influential. Similar assaults by pro-government vigilantes against demonstrators during the 2014 Umbrella Movement protests were blamed on triads. Hong Kong has been plunged into its worst crisis in recent history by weeks of marches and sporadic violent confrontations between police and pockets of hardcore protesters. The initial protests were lit by a now suspended bill that would have allowed extraditions to mainland China.
As the mob rampage unfolded in Yanlong, police were simultaneously battling hardcore democracy protesters in the middle of the city's commercial district. Riot officers fired tear gas and rubber bullets at anti-government protesters hours after China's office in the city was daubed with eggs and graffiti in a vivid rebuke to Beijing's rule. Earlier in the day, another huge and peaceful anti-government march had made its way through the city, a seventh weekend in a row that residents have come out en masse. 6 weeks of huge protests have done little to persuade the city's unelected leaders or Beijing to change tack on the hub's future. Under the 1997 handover deal with Britain, China promised to allow Hong Kong to keep key liberties such as its independent judiciary and freedom of speech. But many say those provisions are already being curtailed, citing the disappearance into mainland custody of dissident booksellers, the disqualification of prominent politicians, and jailing of pro-democracy protest leaders. Authorities have also resisted calls for the city's leader to be directly elected by the people.
Now, all these clashes involving Hong Kong's protest movement escalated violently late Sunday as police launched tear gas at protesters who didn't disband after the massive march. And subway riders were attacked by masked assailants who appeared to target the pro-democracy demonstrators. At the scene was Kit Wong as she follows this developing story. Take a look.
We are back to Hong Kong following my last report. The city of Hong Kong fell into scenes of chaos Sunday night after riot police fired tear gas and rubber bullets at protesters in Shangwan, and a mob armed with batons attacked people in the Yuen Long metro station. Protesters against the China extradition bill continued on Sunday at 4 p.m. with over 400,000 of protesters during the rally that started in Causeway Bay and ended in Shangwan. Protesters in Hong Kong are past the designated endpoint for a march in which tens of thousands repeated demands for direct elections and an independent investigation into police tactics used in previous demonstrations. The at first peaceful rally turned into violence as thousands of protesters defied police orders and marched beyond the designated endpoint towards the Chinese government liaison office. Protesters spray-printed slogans of "Liberate Hong Kong" on walls close to the building. Now, we're in the front line of the police. They're pushing the protesters and they want to clear up the road. Now you can see in the front line, actually we don't have a protester here. Those are only reporters. There was a clash between the police and the protesters near Shun Tak Ferry Terminal as the crowd continued to march into the city center. Riot police fired tear gas and rubber bullets, and protesters have to fall back at first, but later started charging towards police lines with metal barricades and throwing rocks at the police. I'm here in the middle of the Western Street. Hundreds of riot police they stand by and blocking every direction from the China embassy. I will take a picture. Just now, one senator represent from Hong Kong. He just tried to convince police, don't push too hard, give them time, give the protesters time to leave because they have no intention to fight with them. The chaos continued throughout the night, which resulted in a temporary shutdown of ferry services going to and from Macau and mainland China.
Police shoot again the tear gas. The police close the door and use more tear gas.
A violence incident in Yunnan metro station accordingly came after tens of thousands who took the streets for the anti-China extradition bill demonstrations. A mob armed with batons attacked protesters and citizens alike in Yunnan metro station, although it was told that the mob gang, who were wearing white shirts and masks, was aiming at protesters who were dressed distinctively in black. Live videos on social media showed that reporters and civilians, including elderly people, children, and a pregnant woman, were also the victims of the violence. Civilians have stated that no police was sent to the metro station until half an hour after the incident, and that the police emergency line 999 was hung up. They were only able to contact the firemen and ambulance for help.
At around 10:30, the police have moved in to disperse the crowd. From Shun Tak, Hong Kong, reporting for Eagle News, this is Kit Wong, and I am one with Channel 5.
Thank you, Kit. Stay safe. Meanwhile, Hong Kong Executive Carrie Lam condemned both the targeting of the liaison officer and the pro-government mobsters, saying violence is not a solution to any problem. Watch this.
That we absolutely do not condone that sort of violent acts. And let me make this clear again. Violence is not a solution to any problem. Violence will only breed more violence. And at the end of the day, the whole of Hong Kong and the people will suffer as a result of the loss of law and order in Hong Kong.
To Japan now, where Prime Minister Shinzo Abe has just pledged to keep alive his plans to amend the country's pacifist constitution, despite failing to secure a supermajority in the upper house elections. Take a look.
衆参両院で3分の2というハードルは極めて高いものでありますが、そうした議論を深める中で、与野党の枠を超えて3分の2の賛同が得られる改正案を練り上げていきたい。憲法改正を最終的に決めるのは国民投票、すなわち国民の皆様です。
His ruling coalition retained its majority in the upper house in Sunday's vote for around half the seats in the chamber, but fell short of securing a two-thirds majority in favor of revising the Constitution. Abe has long harbored dreams of revising the Constitution, which prohibits the country from waging war and maintaining a military. But public support for revising the document is low, and there's discomfort with the idea even among the ruling coalition. Experts said that since many within Prime Minister Abe's coalition were already uneasy about the plans, the failure to secure a supermajority was unlikely to change the Prime Minister's calculations significantly. Prime Minister Abe's LDP and its coalition partner, Komeito, took 71 of the 124 seats up for grabs in Sunday's vote, accounting for about half of the upper chamber. The two parties already controlled 70 seats in the other half of the 245-seat chamber that wasn't being contested. Analysts said Abe's coalition benefited from a weak opposition, and voter turnout underscored apathy among the electorate, falling below 50% for the first time since a 1995 upper house election. Prime Minister Abe's win is likely, however, to shore up his support ahead of a controversial hike of the consumption tax to 10% later this year, as well as trade negotiations with Washington. The outcome of Sunday's election means Prime Minister Abe remains on track to become the country's longest-serving prime minister later this year.
Iran warned Sunday that the fate of a UK-flagged tanker it seized in the Gulf depends on an investigation as Britain prepared for an emergency security meeting on Tehran's action. Iranian authorities impounded the Stena Impero with 23 crew members aboard off the port of Bandar Abbas after the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps seized it Friday in the highly sensitive Strait of Hormuz. Video footage released by Iran showed the Stena Impero tanker being surrounded by speedboats before troops in balaclavas descend a rope from a helicopter onto the vessel. In an audio recording of a radio exchange, an Iranian officer can be heard ordering the tanker to change course immediately.
You obey, you will be safe. If you obey, you will be safe. Alter your course to 360 degrees immediately. Over. MV Stena Impero, this is British warship Foxtrot 236. So I reiterate that as you are conducting transit passage in a recognised international strait, under international law your passage must not be impaired, impeded, obstructed or hampered. Please confirm that you are conducting transit passage in a recognised international strait. Stena Impero, I say again my last. You are ordered change your course to 360 degrees immediately. If you obey, you will be safe. Over.
The authenticity of the recording obtained and released by London-based maritime security risk analysts Dryad Global was confirmed by Britain's Defence Ministry. London has warned its ships to avoid the Strait of Hormuz, a choke point for about a third of the world's seaborne oil. In a letter to the UN Security Council, British Chargé d'Affaires Jonathan Allen wrote that the vessel had been in Omani waters with its transponder switched on when it was approached. It was exercising the lawful right of transit passage in an international strait, he wrote. The incident began hours after a Gibraltar court extended by 30 days the detention of an Iranian tanker seized by UK authorities 2 weeks ago on allegations of breaching sanctions against Syria. Prime Minister Theresa May will hold a meeting of Britain's Emergencies Committee on Monday to discuss the seizure. The cabinet briefings usually include ministers, security intelligence and military chiefs at a secure London facility. Tehran has been at loggerheads with Washington since May 2018 when President Donald Trump unilaterally withdrew the U.S. from a landmark 2015 deal putting carbs on Iran's nuclear program in exchange for sanctions relief. The U.S. administrator reimposed tough sanctions on Iran, which retailed by increasing its enrichment of uranium beyond limits set in the nuclear accord. Trump called off airstrikes against Iran at the last minute in June after the Islamic Republic downed a U.S. drone, one of a string of incidents including attacks on tankers in the Gulf.
Revertirla. Mi país, queridos amigos, lidera la resistencia de las nuevas tendencias unilaterales de Estados Unidos, que incluyen nuestros esfuerzos para abordar la preocupación acerca de nuestro programa pacífico nuclear, aunque infundado, es una de las principales víctimas del nuevo unilateralismo. El gobierno, la intervención grosera de Estados Unidos en los asuntos internos de Venezuela, incluyendo la instigación de un golpe de Estado fallido en abril último, es un nuevo ejemplo de la malévola acción.
And the news continues here on Eagle News International. We'll be right back.
Ako ang tanaw sa gitna ng dilim. Ako ang mata sa sahing papawid. Ako ang dilat sa tuwing ang bayan ko ay tulog ng mahimbing. Ang aming buhay handang ialay para sa bayan. Kayo'y handang paglingkuran.
Join us in celebrating the 72nd anniversary of the Philippine Air Force.
Linggo, alas 6 hanggang alas 7 ng gabi.
Welcome back. President Duterte renewed his appeal to Congress to restore the death penalty to curb illegal drugs and corruption in the government. In delivering his fourth Station of the Nation address, President Duterte expressed disappointment that 3 years have passed by and still illegal drugs and corruption remain to be the country's main problems. According to the president, the Marawi siege, which he said was funded by drug money, is one of the reasons why he's advocating for the reimposition of the capital punishment. He also said that while there is a long way to go before the government puts an end to the illegal substance, he will not renege on his resolve to fight the drug trade. Take a listen.
Let me begin by extending my hand in gratitude to all who kept faith with me in our most trying times. Numbers speak 1,000 words, tell 100 tales, but the landslide victory of the administration candidates, as well as the latest survey result, shows that my disapproval rating is 3%. I hope that the members of Congress, sana hindi kayo included sa 3%, inspires me with determination to pursue relentlessly what we have started at the start of my administration. Few men imbued with the will and the courage to do what he believes is right, for it is not the eagle in the fight, but the fight in the eagle that matters. Believe me, I will end my term fighting. It has been 3 years since I took my oath of office, and it pains me to say that we have not learned our lesson. The illegal drug problem persists. Corruption continues and emasculate the courage we need to sustain our moral recovery initiatives.
West Philippine Sea is ours. This was President Duterte's declaration as he discussed his position on the contested islands and marine territories in his fourth State of the Nation address Monday.
All the resources there, as an owner, we are claiming the same, but we are not in the position because of that fiasco. Noong dalawang nag-stand off doon during the time of my predecessor, si Albert Ambassador, if I'm correct, I do not know his real name, tayo ang umatras. Pagsabi na umatras, that was a kind of a compromise. Tayo ang umatras. Nung umatras tayo, pumasok sila. Marami na. That day, we lost the Spratly and the Panganiban. Yan ang totoo. Walang bulahan yan. Gayon may arbitrary ruling. I said, I could not even ask for the oil, claiming the entire resources of the Manila. Anong sabihin ko sa kanila? Kaya sinabi ko, let us do this mutually. Let me assure you that national honor and territorial integrity shall be foremost in our mind. And we may take next steps in the smoldering controversy over the lines of arbitrary ruling. The West Philippine Sea is ours. There is no ifs and buts. It is ours. But we have been acting along that legal truth and line. But we have to temper it with the times and the realities that we face today. All the resources there, as an owner,
He reiterated that the Philippines was not ready to engage Beijing in a shooting war that could only result in grief and misery. He said widows and orphans would be left behind, which he did not intend to do. Duterte said he cannot send the Marines to drive the Chinese fishermen away in the West Philippine Sea because they will not be able to come home alive. According to the president, the Philippines and China can settle the issue more effectively through diplomatic negotiations.
tayo ang umatras.
Meanwhile, a majority of people in the Philippines support President Duterte, according to a recent poll. Here are some of their reactions. Take a look.
Kasi hindi naman nawawala yung droga, yung patayan lalong lumalala. Yung mga pangako niya wala namang natutupad. Yan ang totoo.
Ako, sinusuportahan ko si Pangulong Duterte dahil naniniwala ako na meron naman siyang nagawang kabutihan sa Pilipinas. Katulad ng kahit paano nabawasan ng mga addiction dito, nabawasan ng mga addict. Pangalawa, yung sa kalikasan natin, napalinis niya yung Boracay, yung Manila Bay.
Para sa akin okay naman. Dahil sa naibalik niya yung yung tiwala ng mga tao, pwede ka na maglakad-lakad ulit, 'di ba? Safe ka na, saka nawala yung mga taong addict.
Ang pinakagusto ko sa kanya, talagang pag sinabi niya, nakatutupad naman ginagawa niya, at saka action man siya Action man. Ang hindi ko lang minsan nagugustuhan yung kanyang pananalita, minsan tactless, di ba?
Sinusuportahan ko yung presidente natin sa magandang intention niya sa atin. Kaya lang, sa war on drugs, parang pabata ng pabata yung namamatay. Parang hindi yata magandang tignan.
Here's another reaction from our Hawaii Bureau wherein they're hoping for improved quality in college education in the Philippines as incentive for young Filipinos abroad. Here's Alfred Arcenas.
To President Rodrigo Roa Duterte, Mr. President, congratulations on making it to your halfway point in your administration. We wish you the best in the remaining years of your presidency. what some of us here in Hawaii especially are curious about and aspire for is for our younger generations, including my children, to really appreciate Philippine culture and know more about the Philippines. And as you know, one of the ongoing issues we're experiencing, especially here in the U.S., is the rising cost of a college or post-secondary education. Now, there are also some a trend, if you will, of Filipino Americans or even expats from other countries wanting to send their own children to younger Filipinos back to the Philippines to pursue a higher education there. So our question / hope is whether your administration will have any initiatives to further improve the quality of college education there, and as a way to incentivize our younger Filipinos to come home, spend a few years, and really appreciate Filipino culture, and at the same time get a very good and competitive college education. That's all, in mabuhay po. Maraming salamat.
And here's Philippine Ambassador to New Zealand, Ambassador Jesus Gary Domingo, and his reaction to President Duterte's State of the Nation address. Take a look.
Magandang hapon sa inyo lahat. Well, the whole Filipino nation and those of us overseas are eagerly awaiting the State of Nation address to be delivered by His Excellency President Rodrigo Roa Duterte. Well, for us, we will get a sense of where the President would like to take us in terms of all our national policies. But of course, being the embassy, we are particularly eager to hear what particular directions he would like the Department of Foreign Affairs and Philippine foreign policy to take. And of course, our lead pillar is the protection of the rights and welfare of overseas Filipino workers. So we are particularly eager to hear what directions we're going to take, for example, with the announced establishment of the Department of OFW Affairs, and of course, our other direction we will take in terms of our other pillars of foreign policy, national security, economic diplomacy, and cultural diplomacy. So in a few short hours, we're going to hear from the President. But also, we are very proud and we are congratulate Speaker Alan Peter Cayetano, who assumes as Speaker of the House of Representatives today. And of course, as you know, he was our former boss as Secretary of Foreign Affairs. So, Namihi, we wish him well and give him our fullest and unconditional support. Maraming salamat po.
Meanwhile, ABC Japan's Bureau's Tyra Liu has requested hopes for President Duterte. Tyra?
To the Philippine President, our President, of course, President Rodrigo Duterte, first and foremost, would like to congratulate you for a proactive leadership and for acquiring an above-average rating in the People's Satisfaction Survey so far, which slowly puts back the trust of the Filipinos in the Philippine government. And moving forward towards your remaining terms in the office, we Filipinos here in Japan hope, among others, for a more organized and systematic garbage disposal and recycling system. That we may not only implement this effectively and pass it on to the next line of leadership, but likewise inculcate such practice into the young minds of Filipinos. May each educational institution train the young minds on the importance of taking care of our environment. If Japan has successfully established this system in their country, I am sure the Filipinos in the Philippines as well can and will. After all, this isn't just about using the right technology and having enough budget, which are just part of the successful implementation, but rather this is more of developing the right attitude in every Filipinos. We Filipinos here in Japan support your every endeavor. Good luck and mabuhay.
Thank you, Tyra.
Thank you, Tyra. We'll be back with more news right after this break.
Alas 4 hanggang alas 5 ng hapon.
Welcome back. The United States sweltered in dangerously hot weather on Sunday with major cities including New York, Philadelphia, and Washington. They were all broiling in temperatures that rose into triple digits. An oppressive heat wave stretching from the Midwestern plains to the Atlantic coast had nearly 150 million people struggling to stay cool in stifling heat that set records in a handful of states. By Sunday afternoon, the National Weather Service said the high temperatures would soon be over, but the severe weather would continue. It warned that showers and thunderstorms with heavy to excessive rainfall and severe weather possible were expected across a swath of the East Coast, and flash floods were a risk. Around 95 million people were under a heat warning or advisory for Sunday, down from Saturday's 157 million. Authorities urged people on Sunday to stay hydrated, watch out for the sick and elderly, stay inside as much as possible, and not leave children or animals inside cars. U.S. media has blamed the heat wave for at least 6 deaths, including a hiker who had been found unconscious on a trail outside Washington on Saturday, and 2 people who died earlier in the week in the eastern state of Maryland. In Arkansas, 32-year-old former NFL player Mitch Petrus died of heat stroke Thursday after working outside his family's shop. The New York City Triathlon, which had been scheduled for Sunday, was canceled for the first time since its founding in 2001.
After a scorching weekend across the U.S. East Coast, it's Europe's turn to experience the heat this week. According to forecasts from the European Center for Medium-Range Weather Forecasts, or ECMWF, Europe could see temperatures reaching as high as 40 degrees Celsius, that's 104 degrees Fahrenheit, in some areas on Wednesday and Thursday next week. Some areas could be as much as 12 degrees centigrade, or that's 52 degrees Fahrenheit, hotter than usual for this time of year. France's forecasting service, Meteo France, wanted that temperatures in central regions of the country could hit highs of 41 degrees centigrade, or that's Celsius. Temperatures could rise as high as 34 degrees Celsius by Wednesday in London and other parts of Britain, compared with about 21 Celsius now, according to the Met Office. Climate data showed June was the hottest month on record worldwide, with a heat wave across Europe smashing national records. News of an incoming heat wave comes just one day after France's weather service, Meteo France, revised higher the peak temperature experienced in the country during the record-breaking hot weather in late June. Meteo France said that a temperature of 46 degrees Celsius, or that's 114.8 degrees Fahrenheit, was recorded near the town of Verargues, around 18 miles from Montpellier to the country's south coast.
To other news now, India on Monday launched a landmark spacecraft to land on the moon in a bid to become only the 4th nation to achieve this feat. Chandrayaan-2 Moon Chariot 2 took off as scheduled at 2:43 p.m. from the Satish Dhawan Space Center at Sriharikota, an island off the coast of southern Andhra Pradesh state. The launch came a week after a fuel leak forced the previous attempt to be scrubbed. The rocket will take up an orbiter, a lander, and a rover and has been almost entirely designed and made in India. The 2.4-ton orbiter is expected to circle the moon for about 1 year, taking images of the surface, looking for signs of water, and studying the atmosphere.
Chandrayaan-2 is on a mission unlike any before, leveraging nearly a decade of scientific research and engineering development. India's second lunar expedition will shed light on a completely unexplored section of the moon, its south polar region. Take a look.
Launched from Sriharikota in southern India on a 100% Indian rocket, Chandrayaan-2, meaning lunar vehicle in Sanskrit, is heading for the unexplored part of the moon, its south pole. It should arrive at the beginning of September 2019 after a 380,000 kilometer voyage. Once it's in lunar orbit 100 kilometers above the surface, the spacecraft will send a lander on a controlled descent to the surface. The lander will then release a 6-wheeled, solar-powered rover that will cover about 200 meters of lunar territory. The aim of the 14-day mission to examine the surface, gathering data on minerals and even water in the form of ice. 11 years after the Chandrayaan-1 mission, which placed a probe in orbit around the moon, India aims to become the 4th country to send a mission to the moon's surface after the US, the Soviet Union and China. But India's ambitions don't stop there. They hope the first manned mission to space will take off before 2022.
And the news continues here on Eagle News International. We'll be right back with sports news.
Visiting the Philippines, Manila or Quezon City is a popular destination. But oftentimes the hustle and bustle of the city can be more stressful on your vacation. So when you feel the need to reconnect to nature or relax again, there's a beautiful oasis just outside of the city called the Garden at Ciudad de Victoria. Some of the species that you can see here include hydrangea, snapdragon, and stargazers. They're truly beautiful. The gardens at Ciudad de Victoria are so peaceful, tranquil, and beautiful that it's become a haven for young couples and a very popular venue for engagement photos. The next time you want an escape from the big city, the garden at Ciudad de Victoria is a wonderful place to visit.
Welcome back. Filipino legend Manny Pacquiao rolls back the years to become the oldest welterweight champion in boxing history. With a thrilling split decision victory over WBA former champion Keith Thurman, Valerie Gonzalez reports.
The MGM Grand Garden Arena has been the host for many historical fights, and tonight is another one to add to the list of greats. The two fighters battled in a 12-round bout, concluding in a split decision after a grueling fight and continuous barrage of leather. From both fighters, Manny Pac-Man Pacquiao was declared the winner and claimed the welterweight title. Fans shared the reaction with fellow EBC correspondent Julian Docena after witnessing this tale of experience over youth.
I think it was a good fight. Manny showed up and he did a great job in the early rounds. And I think if Manny would have stayed active a little more, he probably would have knocked him out. But he's 40 years old. Just keep moving forward for Keith. This is just a setback. Manny, press Floyd one more time and see if we can get a rematch.
Manny dominated the whole fight from beginning to end. The decision I didn't agree with. They called it a split decision. Should have been unanimous, but in the end, Pacquiao won, so it's all that really matters. There's always politics. There's always something going on. You know, you would think it's unanimous, and then it could turn around. I mean, I got scared thinking they were going to announce Thurman the winner by split decision, which was, I know the place would have erupted if that really happened, but, you know, the right decision was made, but it should have been unanimous. Manny Pacquiao's 40 years old. I'm 40 years old. You know, people question if he still got it. He's definitely got it. I mean, he could keep on going for another couple years.
History will have a place for these two fighters tonight. One will go into history with a loss, and the other will go down in history with the title. From the MGM Grand Garden Arena in fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada, I am Valerie Gonzalez, and I am one with 25.
Here's Ben Bernaldez for our sports news.
Filipino legend Manny Pacquiao rolled back the years to become the oldest welterweight champion in boxing history with a thrilling split decision victory over WBA champion Keith Thurman on Saturday. The 40-year-old Pacquiao, 10 years older than the previously undefeated Thurman, delivered a vintage performance before a sellout MGM Grand Garden Arena crowd of 14,356,000, which included former welterweight king Floyd Mayweather. Pacquiao floored Thurman with an electrifying combination in the first round and remained on the front foot throughout a pulsating 12-round duel. Although the bloody Thurman rallied in the later rounds to narrow Pacquiao's lead, the judges scored in the Filipinos' favor. Two judges scored 115-112 for Pacquiao, with the third scoring 114-113 for Thurman.
You saw tonight what we did in the ring. My opponent was very tough and strong also. First time I encounter opponent like heavy-handed like Keith Thurman.
Thurman had riled up Pacquiao in the build-up to the fight by vowing to crucify his deeply religious opponent and later promising to send the Filipino icon into retirement. Pacquiao, who improved to 62 wins, 7 losses, and 2 draws with 39 knockouts, was gracious in victory.
I can still fight. I can give a good fight. I can entertain the fans.
Pacquiao, who earned his estimated $20 million from Saturday's fight, is now a major player in the competitive welterweight division, once again after capturing Thurman's WBA welterweight super champion belt. The 8th Division World Champion said he will now return to the Philippines to resume his work as a senator before deciding on his next move inside the ring. Thurman, meanwhile, had few complaints in defeat, embracing Pacquiao after the final bell in recognition of an epic contest.
I mean, it was a close fight, you know, it really was. That's what boxing's all about. You just never know what's really going to happen. You know, obviously he was well prepared. He was in shape. I tried to push him to his limit, and he came out on top.
Official statistics showed Pacquiao landed 195 of 686 punches thrown, while Thurman connected with 210 of 571.
Pressing fight, you know, even though he knocked me down, I didn't care. I want to be in his face. I felt like he was getting a little bit tired in the later rounds, but he does train hard. You know, he trains hard. He kept his hands up. he's been in so many wars that now he knows what not to do.
Towards the end of the round, the crowd erupted as Pacquiao sent Thurman crashing to the canvas, uncorking a left to the rib before detonating a right hand on the American's jaw. That set the tone for the early rounds, with Pacquiao urging Thurman on before using his superior hand speed and footwork to bamboozle his rival. A dazzling combination wobbled Thurman again at the end of the second, and Pacquiao delighted the crowd with an alley shuffle as the round closed. Although Thurman improved, Pacquiao was able to control the tempo and had Thurman in trouble again in the 5th round with blood pouring from his nose. Thurman, though, was in no mood to surrender, and he came back strongly, snapping Pacquiao's head back with a right cross-left jab combination in the 7th round. The younger Thurman appeared to be gaining momentum as the fight drew on, backing up Pacquiao with a clean combination in the 8th. But again, Pacquiao responded strongly, swarming forward in the 9th round to have Thurman rattled again. A ferocious Pacquiao body shot in the 10th had Thurman in trouble again, pushing the contest further out of reach. And these are the stories for EN Sports. I'm Ben Bernaldez, and I am 1 with 25.
Congratulations, Senator Manny Pacquiao.
Yeah, it was a good fight. Yeah, what I like about him is that, about Keith Thurman, he goes in for the punches.
Yeah. He's a counter-puncher.
Yeah. Unlike Mayweather, where he dances around and runs away
He's
from.
good at that. Don't forget to like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter and Tumblr. Also check out our boards and Pinterest and pictures on Instagram. I'm Sam Cepeda. Thanks for joining us.
I'm Alma Angeles, and we're 1 with 25.
This portion is brought